The vote in favour of having confidence in Boris Johnson as leader was 211 votes, and the vote against was 148 votes. And therefore, I can announce that the Parliamentary Party does have confidence.
All right, welcome back to Wake Up America. I'm Katrina Zish. That was the reading of the vote in which British Prime Minister Boris Johnson could have lost his job with this no confidence vote. However, the leader kept his position as prime minister, but he is now plagued in scandal that has divided his Conservative Party. Joining us now, GB News presenter and former member of European Parliament, Alex Phillips. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning.
So, of course, there's been a lot of buzz, even on this side of the pond, surrounding this high drama vote. I want to get your reaction to this just right off the bat.
Right, so everyone guessed he would survive it. It was the margin by which he survived that was key here. And what's interesting is it was a lot tighter than people anticipated. Now, those who are against the Prime Minister outnumber the majority he got in Parliament. This puts him in a difficult situation for a couple of reasons. First of all, it means that if the opposition decided to call a vote of no confidence, could they gamble on Conservatives backing that and therefore triggering a general election? Well, it seems unlikely because they would be worried about losing their seats. But it also means that evidently he does not have the backing of the full party. There are a lot of people out to get him. And how long will his tenure last? When we've seen votes of no confidence before, Theresa May had one 4 years ago. In fact, her winning of that vote of no confidence had a far bigger majority than Boris Johnson has currently got. What might save him, however, is with Theresa May, it was all about Brexit. It was Remainers versus Leavers, and it was about that Brexit deal. With Boris Johnson, it's a hodgepodge. It's higgledy-piggledy. It's many factions and many reasons why people are discontent with his leadership. And what we do know about Boris is he is a survivor. If he can get his magic and magnetism back after a year of COVID and a cost of living crisis, if he can now govern with conviction and bring back the Boris of old that people really find ineffable and attractive, then I think he could still go to the next general election and even win it.
Wow. And I mean, you mentioned that there are many reasons for the discontent in his leadership. And of course, this vote of no confidence really was about those Partygate, as it has come to be called, of course, when he was having these wine and cheese parties at 10 Downing Street, while everybody else in the country was on COVID lockdown, not even able to go see dying relatives. So that was really something that angered people and really called for this vote of no confidence. And also just a reminder, prime ministers are not actually elected, but they are appointed by the party that is elected. And you said if he can bring back the Boris of yore, so to speak, he might be able to hang on to his seat and even continue. What would he have to do in order to pull that off?
Well, this is the interesting thing. It isn't all about Partygate. You might think it is, but actually it isn't. What's interesting is this happened in recess. This didn't happen when Parliament was sitting. It wasn't people plotting in the corridors of power. So there is a huge amount of MPs who have looked at some of the letters that were coming from constituents and thought, this isn't survivable. And the Partygate investigation still has a few more hurdles to traverse. But a lot of this is also down to ideology, because what's happened after the pandemic and the cost of living crisis is the Conservative Party have become very interventionary. They've become a big state Conservative Party. They've put taxes up. And a lot of his own party is saying, this is not the way that we traditionally govern. We cut taxes and we don't intervene in people's lives. We're not a big state party. There are a lot of people who say the Conservatives right now are ruling more like the Labour Party. So there are all of these motivations. So I think what Boris Johnson's got to do, it's going to be difficult for him to put Partygate to bed, because we've still got the Parliamentary Privileges Committee who investigate MPs' standards to do their investigation. If they find him guilty, it could be a 10-day suspension and parliamentary recall, which would mean his own constituents would get to vote on whether or not he should be their MP. And that would be curtains for any prime minister. But I think if in the next few months he can put some strong Conservative policies forward, that will help. That's what we should expect.
Okay, and it's an uphill battle, it sounds like, but you think he can do it. But finally, Alex, real quick, we're running out of time, but we do have some breaking news. According to reports, parliamentary staff has been evacuated from their offices in London due to a suspicious package. Now, this could be the first time you're hearing about it. We just got this news. But as a former member of Parliament, what's your reaction, real quick?
And the security forces around Parliament are supremely vigilant. The country's constantly on alert when it comes to terror threats. We haven't seen anything like this for a long time. I hope it's just necessary measures being taken and nothing to be alarmed about. But this would be standard protocol to evacuate people if there was something that raised any form of suspicion.
All right. Thanks so much for explaining that to us and for your great insights as well. Always happy to have you, Alex Phillips.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.